Maybe I should have learned and kept the piano lessons going. Oh well. I'm sitting at Phase 1 Studios in Toronto. We're in Studio A. This studio is one of the oldest studios in Toronto. In the 70s, this place was rocking with artists like Alice Cooper, Bob Dylan, Keith Richards, and Kiss. Since then, the studio has gone under some major renovations and updos to appeal to more modern and emerging artists, such as Rihanna, Black Eyed Peas, and Enrique Iglesias. I'm so excited to be able to talk to engineers, technicians, and the owner of Phase 1 Studios. What motivated you to buy Phase 1?
To buy an iconic studio like Phase 1 was a dream. I had looked at other studios. I looked at building a studio from scratch.
Okay.
This just made the most sense. Although I must admit, when I got here, the place was in tremendous disarray. It was really broken down. And it was a big job to bring it back up to where we got it to. I used to be an engineer. I was a musician at one point, so I've done it all.
Do you miss the hands-on position?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it was, look, everybody gets into this business because it's a miracle moment when you first hear music recorded and played back, and you're the one creating it.
Right.
There's not a person who doesn't go through that process who doesn't say, this is like unbelievable. I was no different. I did that for years. I don't get to do that anymore, so yes, I miss it.
Everybody, I think, gets into engineering because they love music. This kind of came naturally. I decided, hey, yeah, I want to continue a career in music somehow, and this is a great way to do it. And being able to contribute to somebody's art is kind of cool.
What exactly does your job entail?
My job here, being an assistant, making sure the rooms are clean, making sure everything's patched properly, making sure that the engineer's specific room set up, and signal chain is just 100%, like no fault, he can walk in and work.
How do you think history impacts on the facility, even after all the renovations and upgrades?
Okay, that's a good question. The history, when we moved here, we changed everything in the entire studio except Studio A.
Right.
And the bulk of the history of the studio is Studio A. So when people still walk in there, it looks exactly the same to them, even though we've done certain things artistically that make it look better.
Yeah.
We fix things up, but the overall space looks the same, so the history is still here intact. When I bring people who haven't been here for the longest time to Studio A, they go, looks just the way it did in 1974. It doesn't, but they think it does.
Like walking down the hall, you see all these bands from like the 80s and 90s and all these gold records, and you go through the client list, it's just like, wow, this person was there, and this person was there, and this person was there. It's like, we should go there because, holy crap. It's just like this family tree of like, oh, this happened back in the 80s, or like the old chief engineer here did this, or the old tech here did this, and you're just like, holy crap. Like, it's not like stuff has left the building. It's like, you look at a piece of gear and you hear a story behind it. It's
Right.
like, man.
It's all contained.
Yeah.
Phase 1 Studios has over 100 gold and platinum records credited to their name. This section right here of Studio A is for the live bands. And when they're doing recordings, then they can set up, have all their equipment in here, and do a full-on performance, and it gets patched through into the control room. What about this board, besides the fact that it's two consoles put together, is unique about it?
Well, these consoles were unique and very sought after because of the way they sound, really. The old saying is, that there's a lot of iron in them. And it's because of the components that they used. Early 70s, what Rupert Neve did in the early 70s is he decided to build consoles and design these circuits. And in order to build them, he was buying World War II era components that were just left over. There's a reason why these consoles are the color that they are, and it's RAF blue. This is the paint they used to put on aircraft during World War II. It was just left over from the war, and they put it together, and these things are built like a bit of a tank. It's a big draw especially for rock bands and stuff like that want sort of that sound, that Neve sound. And we've got it in spades, actually. We've got a lot of it.
And can you just show us where the division is for the
Oh,
you said
okay,
the
yeah,
two
so
consoles were
The
Conjoined?
two consoles were joined here, basically from here all the way over to that section here, that weird nub. It's like the Florida part of it or something. Basically, the left portion of the console from there on was attached to a what we call a center section or a monitor section of its own, and then those two things got separated, and basically they just tagged an input section onto our existing monitor section from this console, and thus was the
There you have it.
thus was the console.
Phase One is an iconic studio, and I want it to be around for a long time. I have two real overriding goals. One is to take all my employees and push them out of here, one by one, so they can go off into a career of their own and be better. My legacy will be how well do the people who work for me do. That's what I feel.
What have you learned so far from being at Phase One, whether it's been in your 3 weeks that you've been working here as full-time or as in your internship?
A lot of technical stuff, like the chief engineer here, Jeff. Just the amount of knowledge he has just blows my mind, and the outside engineers who come in just blow my mind. Just listening to these guys talk. So, in terms of technical knowledge, a lot. In terms of like sonic capability of like how to get sounds and like how to treat artists and like really get the performance out of them, I've learned a lot in terms of that. That's always a treat to watch and listen to.
Your clientele is not only Canadian, it ranges into the American talent as well. What is it about Phase One that you think these international artists want to come to Phase One instead of going to a local studio?
The biggest factor is sometimes an American or international artist is coming through Toronto anyway to do a show, and they have an extra few days, and they say, you know what, why don't we do some recording while we're in Toronto? They do their research, they find out about Phase One, and they'll book here. So it's convenience. For example, on that Herbie Hancock Sting session, they had wanted to get together to do a collaboration. Their managers looked at their schedules for a year. The only time they intersected was in Toronto.
Since you've been here for almost 11 years now, is there ever been an artist that's come in who you just got kind of all flustered or just, like so excited to see this person and be able to be part of their recording session?
Yeah, actually, and it wasn't so much being starstruck as almost being intimidated because you start to realize like, okay, this person's seen way more than just some guy in Toronto. So that, for me, that session would have been Anne Murray doing her duets record.
What artist would you love to do a recording session with?
I would love to do a recording session with this band I've been listening to a lot, Royal Blood, but they just did their last record out in Wales, and it sounds awesome.
Are they from the UK?
I'm pretty sure, but I would be intimidated as hell, so that's the point I want to get to. But working with a band that I'm listening to off my iPod or my phone, I'm just like, that sounds and is awesome. I'd love to do that.
What advice do you have for people who are emerging into this industry?
This is a really difficult industry. I know people say that.
Yeah.
I see it with my own eyes. There are too many people trying to get into an industry that is hiring too few people.
Yeah.
I look for people who are easygoing, who don't seem to panic too easy, good personalities, who talk well, can listen, all the normal things that you would looking for a friend. What I usually hear from them is, I'd really like to work at Phase One because I think I could learn so much from you guys. You've been around for so long. It'd be so beneficial to me. I said, stop right there. Stop. I said, that's not your approach. Your approach to me or anywhere you go to work should be something like this. Mr. Labata, I'd like to come here because I'd like to help make Phase One a better place. I'll do anything it takes so that you have more free time to do the things you want to do.
Right.
You give me the garbage jobs. You have me pick up the paper, clean the bathrooms. I want to make sure that you can do the things you want to focus on and give me the jobs that, I'm capable of doing for the studio. Any contribution I can make to your studio, I'd be happy to make, Mr. Labata. And that's why I want to come work for you. Now, any owner of any business is going to go, this is nice, this is what they want to hear.